ice. Auston Matthews solidified his name in the Leafs record books last night.
Now a chance. McMahon, Matthews, and there is 421. And the Maple Leafs have a new all-time goal-scoring leader.
Matthews scored in the second period against the Islanders, surpassing Hall of Famer Matt Sundin for the franchise record with his 421st career goal. Sundin held the mark with 420 goals in 981 games wearing the blue and white, but the celebration didn't last as the Islanders rallied late to edge Toronto 4-3. And for more on Auston Matthews' milestone goal in his career so far with the Leafs, we are joined live by John Viveiros, host of Hot Take Hockey. John, Happy New Year. It's great to have you with us.
Happy New Year, CJ. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a great new year so far for Auston Matthews, breaking records with the Leafs. Do you feel like this is something the Leafs could have seen coming when they drafted him back in 2016?
I would say yes and no, CJ. I would say more on the yes side. I think they expected an all-time goal scorer and a guy that could do it by the end of his career. Do I think they thought that he would get it done this soon? Probably not. I mean, this guy has a lot more to go, I would say, throughout the rest of his career. You're probably seeing another 500, 600 NHL games from him potentially. So when you look at that, depending on the longevity of his career, this is a guy that could maybe be in that conversation to get close to Alexander Ovechkin's record at some point, looking at the other guys in that category, Wayne Gretzky and so on. So I think now that he's passed that all-time Leafs record, passing Matt Sundin, I think Leaf fans can expect a lot more of that goal scoring. But at the same time, obviously that playoff success is yet to come. So I do think they expected it, CJ. But obviously there's kind of that levels from the regular season success to the playoffs as well.
Well, like you mentioned, he achieved this milestone so quickly, having done that so in just 664 games. Can you talk to us about how impressive that is, especially when you compare that to Matt Sundin's record?
For sure. I think there's an argument that goal scoring is so much tougher now, and it's really hard to see 50 and 60 goal scorers in an NHL season. So when you look at Alexander Ovechkin in the 2000s and 2010s, he did have those 50, 60 goal scorer seasons. But as the hockey has evolved and goalies have gotten better, it's tougher to score goals in this generation of hockey. So for a guy like Auston Matthews, where a couple of years ago he scored 69 goals in a regular season, which really elevated, I would say, this record for him. And now you're looking at this season where he's kind of struggled. But as you said, CJ, starting in 2026 with a hat trick at home on New Year's Day and then getting that 2-goal performance. Of course, it was a loss against the Islanders, but 5 goals in a quick 2 games here to start the new year. I think there's a lot more to come the rest of the season. But everyone in Toronto needs to understand how impressive this is. He has a lot more to go, probably another second half of his career, and he's already passed Matt Sundin for all-time record here. So when we talk about Daryl Sittler, Matt Sundin, some of these big names in Toronto Maple Leafs history, Auston Matthews right in his prime and at the halfway point maybe of his career, he's already passed that record. So to say the least, extremely impressive.
Yes, at just 28 years old, he has a long way to go still. Like you mentioned, he had a tough start in the beginning of the season, but now things are starting to heat up. Do you think he's back to his regular form?
You know what, CJ? I think this is a good time, and I think he is getting back to his form. I think the injury issues, of course, have been a concern. I think you're still seeing it on some shifts. But the two things that I think Leaf fans look for Auston Matthews is how he creates space for himself, and, of course, that release. Whether it's off the one-timer or off the toe drag, I think he can do it solid on the left side. And then, of course, the goal that broke the record for Leafs all-time goal scoring was just a clear one-timer on that right side. So, of course, I think Auston Matthews can score in so many different ways, and what brings an impressive resume for him in terms of his goal scoring. And I don't think we've seen that up until the last couple of games. So if that can be the rest of the way for Auston Matthews in this regular season, I think Leaf fans have a lot more to be excited about.
Well, given this recent accomplishment of the most goals ever scored by a Leaf, do you think we can say that Matthews has cemented himself as the best Leaf in history?
Ooh, you know what, CJ, that's a loaded question, because I think when you look at the 93 run for the Toronto Maple Leafs, when you look at Leafs fans' perspectives, they really have a lot of love for guys like Doug Gilmour and Wendell Clark. And then, of course, guys that put up all-time records in terms of Daryl Sittler, Dave Keon, some of the guys that are at the top of the list. I think Auston Matthews really does need to have a deep playoff run to be in that category. I think right now it's clear. I mean, he did it based on the record books, but also based on how he's been scoring. You can say he's the best goal scorer of all time in Toronto Maple Leafs history. both based on records and I would say just what we've seen. But I think in all time, I think CJ, you could probably solidify him in the top 5 right now. But I think Leaf fans want to see that conference final run, or of course, if the Leafs win the cup in the Auston Matthews era, he'll sit at the top there for a very long time. So I'll say top 5 for now, CJ, with those other guys that I mentioned in there as well. But number 1 soon if they can get some playoff success, I would say more so.
Well, speaking about the playoffs, let's talk a little bit about how the Leafs are doing so far this season. Not their best season so far. What do you make of their play?
You know what? There's a couple different ways you can look at it, CJ. I think the Atlantic Division and the Eastern Conference has been so tight. Like, there's teams that have similar point totals in the Western Conference as the team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they're in the playoffs. So I think the competition has been so much more heavier in the Eastern Conference. You look at the Atlantic Division, teams like Montreal, who have kind of been praised for their play this season, they're only 5 points ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I know in the Toronto market and around the media, the criticism is heavy, but obviously that's because there are high expectations and high standards here in Toronto with this core. So, you know what? I'm not as much on the negative side as others. I think especially what we just mentioned with Auston Matthews getting 5 goals in the last 2 games, you wanted to see some positive signs. They've also been getting points out of their last few games, whether it's been losing in overtime or shootout or getting wins. They've been a lot better in the last couple weeks. So my perspective, it can only go up from here. It's been really poor in terms of the review of this team, but they are only a few points out of a playoff spot. So I would say final statement in that question is this is a team that I think has room to grow. There's a potential of Chris Tanev being out for a very long period of time once again. So if a trade's coming, maybe, but they do need Brandon Carlo back on that defense, CJ, because I think Morgan Rielly played about 27 minutes of ice time last night. That can't be a consistent thing. They need another guy on that back end, and I think they could go on a run, and it helps when guys like Woll and Hilda be in the net have been playing solid. So I think the Leafs will go up here. It's going to be probably more of that wild card race for them towards the end of the season, if I had to predict, rather than the solidified division spots that they've had in past seasons.
Okay, we like that positivity. Well, John Viveiros, host of Hot Take Hockey, thanks so much for joining us. As always, we'll talk to you soon.